Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba. Here stories making the headlines beyond the continent. We begin the news in North America, where U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has secured the required delegates to clinch the 2024 Democratic presidential nomination. Now, this milestone follows President Joe Biden's withdrawal from the race and his endorsement of Harris on Sunday. Delegate counts confirm that 59-year-old Harris has surpassed the 1,976 delegates needed to win the party's nomination in the first round of voting. The Democratic Party has a total of 3,936 delegates, including former presidents, state and local party leaders, members of Congress, and governors. However, only about half are eligible to vote in the first round. In a vote called by former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, California's delegates unanimously backed Harris on Monday evening, pushing her over the top and solidifying her position as the party's nominee. Let's also tell you that U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has promised she will win against Donald Trump in November, comparing her election rival, who is the first former U.S. leader to be convicted of a crime, to predators and cheaters. And speaking of her past as prosecutor in California, Harris told her campaign staff in Wilmington, Delaware, that she knows Trump's type and had taken on perpetrators of all kinds.
You are still there. And it is my intention to go out and earn this nomination and to win. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, has told his Virginia supporters to kick Kamala Harris out of the Oval Office. According to Vance, Vice President Harris was endorsed as a likely presidential candidate because elite Democrats got a smoky-filled room and decided to throw Joe Biden overboard.
Say that we got to kick Kamala Harris out of the Oval Office. Don't give her a chance. Don't give her a chance to run away from the Biden record. The Biden record is the Kamala Harris record. And given what we know about Joe Biden, Kamala Harris probably did a lot more than Joe Biden does over the last 3.5 years. And if Kamala Harris is too blind or too corrupt to admit to the American people that Joe Biden should have never been in there, she's not fit to serve either. We're going to get them both out of there.
And joining me on the news to talk about this is public affairs analyst Bolu Michael B. Good evening. Glad to have you join me.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let me kick off by asking what your initial thoughts were when you knew Kamala Harris will now become the Democratic nominee for the 2024 presidential election.
I wish it happened, organically or naturally, not because of happenstance. I would have loved to see a situation whereby she went through the whole process of being adopted, and because it's over a year-month process in order to get the nomination, which she went through the traditional route. But she's there by happenstance. But it's still a positive development because it shows that the U.S. society is the political outlook is reflecting the demographic changes of the country domestically, and also that the United States is coming up to speed in terms of gender and racial equality. We've seen the advanced countries like Germany, the United Kingdom, and New Zealand produce female leaders at the helm of affairs in terms of prime ministers and president, and it's about time that America prepares itself for female leadership.
Well, some persons say organically or not, what difference does it make? But then how would you view her chances in the presidential race in terms of her race and also sex. I mean, we saw how Hillary Clinton, another woman, tried in 2016 and then lost. Now, let's look, what do you make of her chances in this election?
Well, it's first of all, I see it as first a referendum on the performance of President Joe Biden. Also, it's also a test to see whether America is ready for a female president. I would like to see a person of color. I've seen Obama, but a person of color, a female at the helm of affairs. I think it would. Elevates the cause of women all over the world. But as far as the chances are concerned, I think that the time constraint in between. She's getting into on the ballot, very late in the campaign. The elections in November, and she's just being put forward right now. She has a lot of catching up to do in terms of selling her credentials and herself to the public, to the American people. America is very big and very strong politically. It's not difficult to change people's position, stance, and swing voters. So as far as the chances are concerned, because of the time frame, I think Donald Trump has an advantage and may likely win the election.
Well, if the polls are anything to go by, reports indicate that, Trump is just leading by 2. Vote in the polls. We know how things turn out when it comes to real election, and polls might not be the true indicator. But then people are saying so far she's faring well in polls, considering, her being nominated and how she has fared in the polls. But then let's look at the Trump factor. How would you weigh her chances against him? Look at her trajectory so far, her career, from how she has fared, in all her dealings and her career.
Yeah, she's been a prosecutor. She's been the Attorney General of California, also a U.S. Senator, and she's been able to, get decisive skills to allow her to make tough decisions. Because those positions that she held in the past are very sensitive and requires a careful approach to problem solving. And being vice president as well has exposed that away, at the international scene in terms of foreign policy and international relations. So she seems to be well placed in terms of actually, leading from the front in terms of global affairs and domestic issues. She's been clouded a bit in the Biden administration, and I hope that eventually maybe she becomes the president, we'll begin to see her star shine and see more of her and her capacity. But like I said earlier, the time factor is of essence in U.S. politics, and based on that, if were to go by the time factor and when she's been put in the race, Donald Trump still has an advantage regardless of what the poll says. The poll said a lot against Hillary Clinton, but on election day, Trump still won.
Well, some persons say being a prosecutor once means you be a strong debater, and she's likely to outperform or out-debate Trump. Well, time will tell. We'll see how that pans out. But then, as Kamala Harris prepares to potentially become the first female president of the United States, what are the implications for gender dynamics in global diplomacy and, of course, leadership?
Well, her being at the forefront may actually inspire female participation in politics locally and internationally, and position the United States as a positive example to other countries who are still far behind in terms of racial and gender equality. So the U.S., having an history of strong racial divide and gender imbalance, having to come up to speed and in terms of gender and racial equality by having a female president of color may actually position them as a positive example to other countries. It will also put gender equality at the forefront of international policy discussions, and that in turn will definitely elevate the cause of women globally.
All right, thank you so much. We'll hold our breath and see how things pan out in the U.S. Thank you so much for your expertise on the news. Bolo Michael B., Public Affairs Analyst, many thanks indeed.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And now to South America, where Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, seeking re-election amid claims of opposition suppression on Monday, lashed out at international media. Maduro accused the international media of being liars, calling the FA agency in Spain, the Agence France Presse, the AP agency, CNN and several television stations main hitmen of lies. Just days ahead of the July 28th presidential vote, Maduro claimed the media censor and manipulate information about his campaign, to which access has been limited.
Han tratado de invisibilizarnos 1000 veces. Ahora la operación la dirigen unos sicarios. Los sicarios de la mentira. La agencia F de España, la agencia FP, la agencia AP, CNN y varias. Pues señores sicarios de la mentira de las agencias internacionales, esa película ya la vi y al final de la película gana el muchacho de la película, gana el pueblo y su poder cívico-militar policial.
Still in the region, European Commissioner for International Partnership, Jutta Urpilainen, has pledged 20 million euros to Brazil's Amazon Fund. The support from the Amazon Fund will help accelerate the fight against deforestation, generate income, and create possibilities for the local communities of the Amazon forest. The donation has been received since the origination of the Amazon funds from the 27 European countries. The Amazon Fund has established itself by having transparent and efficient management responsible for responding to one of the main demands, which is the planet's dramatic climate crisis.
Pledge will support the Brazilian government efforts. It will enable to accelerate the fight against deforestation. It will generate income generation possibilities and to local communities of the Amazon forest. And it improves prospects for women and youth.
Nós já recebemos doações desde a origem do Fundo Amazônia de países europeus, mas agora é uma contribuição do conjunto dos 27 países que fazem a União Europeia. Tem um significado muito maior, uma instituição multilateral, que dá muito respaldo, credibilidade. Os Estados Unidos também doou, o Japão. Então o Fundo Amazônia se consolidou por ter uma gestão transparente, eficiente, responsável e por responder a uma das principais demandas, que é a dramática crise climática do planeta.
Thank you for staying tuned. Let's head to Europe, where we understand that Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba is in China for discussions on how Chinese officials might assist in ending the war with Russia. Since the conflict began, Russia's ties with Beijing have grown significantly stronger. China positioned itself as a neutral party in the conflict, claiming it is not providing lethal aid to either side, unlike the United States and other Western nations. However, its expanding partnership with Russia has led to NATO members to label it a crucial enabler of Moscow's war, a stance Beijing has yet to condemn. Kuleba's visit, which runs until Friday, marks his first trip to China since the war erupted in February 2022. The talks will focus on strategies to halt Russian aggression and explore China's potential role in both achieving and sustaining peace. In the meantime, a Spanish court on Tuesday sentenced a pensioner who in 2022 sent letter bombs to Spain's Prime Minister and the US and Ukrainian embassies to 18 years in prison. The court said Pompeyo Gonzalez, a 76-year-old who opposed Western support for Ukraine following Russia's February 2022 invasion, was found guilty of terrorism and manufacturing and sending letter bombs to 6 addresses. The Spanish government spokesperson, Pilar Alegría, has announced the political case brought against the wife of Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. Now, the comments come after Sanchez was called to testify on July 30th in a preliminary corruption inquiry into his wife, Begoña Gomez's business ties. The investigation over alleged corruption and influence peddling has infuriated Sanchez, who was characterized the allegations as an effort to undermine him and his left-wing party. She barely appeared before the same judge on July 5th, but the hearing was suspended after her lawyers said they had not been notified about all complaints against her and asked for time to study them.
Esto no es una causa judicial. Esto es una causa política. Esto es una causa política, alentada por la derecha y por la ultraderecha, y que solo tiene un objetivo claro, que es atacar al presidente del Gobierno, atacar a su familia y, por supuesto, también erosionar a este Gobierno progresista. Le pido al Partido Popular que asuma de una vez con responsabilidad el mandato de las urnas, porque lo que las urnas no le dieron, desde luego, no lo van a conseguir con oscuras maniobras. En estos momentos hemos conocido que hay 2 recursos presentados, por parte de la Fiscalía y también por parte de la Defensa. Hombre, pareciera lógico que tuviéramos que esperar al resultado y a ver cómo se resuelven estos recursos. Pero también déjenme que les diga algo. A estas horas, el presidente del Gobierno todavía no ha sido notificado.
Germany's centre-left government and centre-right opposition on Tuesday unveiled a joint plan to safeguard the independence of the country's constitutional court from potential threats posed by authoritarian or extremist parties. Now, the initiative is set against the backdrop of the far-right alternative for Germany gaining electoral ground and controversial reforms in countries like Poland, Hungary, which critics argue have compromised judicial independence. Speaking at a press conference, Justice Minister Marco Botschmann from Liberal Free Democrats said the plan would see Germany's basic law, which acts as a constitution, changed to fix the number of judges on the court at 16, their term to 12 years, and their retirement age at 68. In the Middle East, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has hosted senior Hamas official Musa Abu Mazak, Fatah envoy Mahmoud al-Alal, and representatives from 12 other Palestinian groups. Yi later announced that they agreed to establish an interim national reconciliation government to govern post-war Gaza. Abu Mazak said an agreement was signed for national unity and declared a path to completing the journey is national unity. Now, China has sought to play a mediator role in the conflict, complicated by the intense rivalry between Hamas, which rules the Gaza Strip, and Fatah, which partially governs the occupied West Bank. Palestinian officials say an Israeli raid in the occupied West Bank on Tuesday killed 5 people, including the Hamas commander. Now, during the pre-dawn operation in Tulkarem refugee camp, Israeli drones struck and killed the head of Hamas military wing in Tulkarem, Ashraf Nafi, the military said in a statement. The statement said Ashraf was responsible for manufacturing and embedding explosive intended to attack the IDF soldiers. Since the war in Gaza erupted, violence has soared in the West Bank, with at least 586 Palestinians killed by Israeli settlers or troops, according to the Palestinian authorities.
تدمير البنية التحتية تفرجي يعني شوارع محلات دور بحاولوا تدمير البنية التحتية في المخيمات على أساس إنهم يهجروا الناس من المخيمات يعملوا هجرة زي هجرة ال48 أو ال67 لكن والله لا والله لا نظلنا صامدين على هذه الأرض والله لا نظلنا صامدين نحقق إن شاء الله تحرير.
And now let's turn attention to Asia, where the Indian government has announced plans to invest $24 billion in employment and training as Prime Minister Narendra Modi aims to address uneven economic growth and appease his granted voters following a surprising election setback in June. In an annual budget speech, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the funding will be allocated over 5 years for a package of 5 schemes and initiatives to facilitate employment, skilling, and other opportunities for more than 40 million young people. She adds that a portion of the fund will be directed towards employment-linked incentives for companies, which the government hopes will create jobs.
While performing better than expected, is still in the grip of policy uncertainties. In this context, India's economic growth continues to be the shining exception and will remain so in the years ahead. I'm happy to announce the Prime Minister's package of 5 schemes and initiatives to facilitate employment, skilling, and other opportunities for 4.1 crore youth over a 5-year period, with a central outlay of 2 lakh crore rupees. The fiscal deficit is estimated at 4.9% of the GDP. New airports, medical colleges, and sports infrastructure in Bihar will be constructed. An additional allocation to support capital investments will be provided. The requests of Bihar government for external assistance from multilateral development banks will be expedited.
Finally, a Seoul court has confirmed the arrest of Kim Bum-soo, the billionaire founder of South Korean internet conglomerate Kakao. Bum-soo is accused of manipulating stock prices during the acquisition of K-pop powerhouse SM Entertainment. Founded in 2010, Kakao has grown into a sprawling empire, owning the major outline bank, South Korea's largest taxi-hailing app, and Kakao Talk, the country's most popular messaging app, installed on 90% of phones. Kakao's vast entertainment portfolio includes music labels and talent management, which it significantly expanded last year by acquiring 39.87% controlling stake in SM Entertainment, becoming its largest shareholder. Prosecutors alleged that in February 2023, Kakao purchased SM shares worth $240 billion on 553 occasions at inflated prices to thwart a takeover bid by HYBE, the agency behind K-pop megastars BTS. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on the TV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba. It's bye for now.